The day after I got promoted, my mom sat across from me and said, "Now that you're making real money, it's time you gave something back." I thought she meant a gift. She meant my savings. And when I said no, she changed the locks. I got the promotion on a Tuesday. Not the kind where they clap and hand you a plaque. The quiet kind. A closed-door meeting. A new title. A number that made my stomach drop for a second when HR slid the paper across the table. Senior director, salary bump, performance bonus, equity. I didn't post about it. I didn't call everyone I knew. I texted two people, my best friend and my mom. She replied within 30 seconds. "I knew it. I always said you were meant for more." Then, "Call me tonight." I should have known that tone. I got home around 7. Claire had already opened a bottle of wine. We ordered takeout. She hugged me harder than usual. "You did it," she said. I guess I did. It felt good. Not triumphant. Just earned. I called my mom around 8. She answered on the first ring. "So," she said immediately. "Tell me everything." I told her about the new responsibilities, the expanded team, the compensation structure. She went quiet when I mentioned the salary. "How much?" she asked. I told her. There was a pause. Then she exhaled slowly. "Wow," she said. "That's life-changing." "For me, yeah." "For us," she corrected gently. I didn't react to that. She'd said similar things before. When I bought my condo at 28, she'd told relatives, "We finally have property." When I paid off my student loans, she'd said, "All that sacrifice paid off." She meant herself, not me. "I'm proud of you," she added. "Thanks. I always knew you'd take care of things." That phrase again, take care of things. When I was 10 and my stepfather lost his job, she told me, "You're the man of the house now." I was 10. When I got a part-time job at 16, she said, "Every dollar helps." I handed over half my paychecks without arguing. When I moved out after college, she cried and said, "Don't forget who raised you." I didn't. I sent money when she fell behind on bills. Not huge amounts, but consistent. Electric bill 1 month, car repair another. "Just until I catch up," she'd say. She rarely caught up. That night, though, she sounded warm, almost nostalgic. "You remember how I gave up nursing school for you?" she asked. There it was, the first brick. "I remember you saying that," I replied carefully. "I did," she continued. "I could have had a career, but I chose you." I'd heard that story dozens of times. She got pregnant at 22. My biological father left. She enrolled in nursing school briefly, then dropped out. She always framed it as sacrifice, not circumstance. "You did what you thought was best," I said. "I did what I had to," she corrected. We hung up on good terms, or what passed for good. The next morning at 6:42 a.m., she called again. I was halfway through coffee. "Morning," I answered. Her voice was different. Less celebratory, more purposeful. "I've been thinking," she said. That sentence never leads anywhere simple. "About what?" "About fairness." My chest tightened slightly. "Okay. You're in a position now," she continued, "where you can finally give back properly." There it was, not subtle, not veiled. "Give back how?" I asked. "To me," she said plainly. Silence. "I raised you," she continued. "I gave up my career, my youth, my options, everything." She'd never said it this directly before. There were always layers, hints, comments. This was a claim. "I've helped you," I said carefully. "You've sent money," she replied. "That's different." "How?" "That was survival. This is repayment." Repayment. The word felt foreign, as if my childhood had been an invoice. "I don't owe you for raising me," I said slowly. "You absolutely do," she replied immediately. No hesitation, no humor. "You wouldn't be where you are without me." That part was true, but not in the way she meant. "You chose to have me," I said. "I chose to keep you," she corrected sharply. The tone shifted. Edge. I could have had a different life. There it was, the unspoken narrative. I was the reason she didn't. "And now," she continued, voice tightening, "it's time you make that right." Make it right, as if success was a dead instrument. "What exactly are you asking for?" I asked. "Your savings." She didn't soften it, didn't say help, didn't say portion. "Transfer it," she said. "It's only fair." I felt my stomach drop in a way the promotion never triggered. "How much do you think I have?" I asked. "I don't know," she said, "but I know it's enough." Enough, not specific, just enough. "For what?" I pressed. "For me to live comfortably," she replied. For once. There it was, not an emergency, not a crisis, comfort. "You want my entire savings so you can be comfortable?" "I want what I'm owed." That sentence hung heavier than anything she'd said. It wasn't a request. It wasn't even framed as a favor. It was entitlement. Raw. You can't be serious, I said quietly. I've been serious for years, she replied. I sat down slowly at the kitchen counter. Claire looked up from across the room, reading my face. What number are we talking about? I asked. All of it, she said. No hesitation. All. She wasn't asking for help with rent. She wasn't asking for a medical emergency. She wanted control-level money. Why now? I asked. Because now you have it. There was no pretense, no emotional manipulation layer yet, just logic. You make more in a year than I've ever seen at once, she continued, and I'm still struggling. You're not struggling, I said. You don't know that. I send money when you are. And that keeps me dependent, she snapped. There it was, the pivot. If I give small amounts, I'm enabling dependency. If I refuse everything, I'm selfish. The only acceptable path was total transfer. I want stability, she said. So do I replied. You're young, she dismissed. You'll rebuild. Rebuild. Like savings were optional. Like compounding didn't matter. Like retirement was a mood. You're asking me to empty my account, I said. I'm asking you to honor your mother. Honor. She was layering it now. Sacrifice, repayment, honor. You don't get paid back for parenting, I said quietly. You do when you sacrifice everything, she shot back. I didn't ask you to. Silence. Sharp. Cold. I never thought you'd be this ungrateful, she said. There it was. The final weapon. Gratitude. You're not entitled to my savings, I said, slower now. You're my mother, not my creditor. The line hit harder than I expected. She inhaled sharply. You've changed, she said. No, I replied. I've grown up. And that's when I realized something important. This wasn't about money alone. This was about control. If she had access to my savings, she had leverage, security, power, and I had none. Think about it, she said finally, before you ruin this relationship. Click. She hung up. Claire stared at me from across the room. What was that? She asked. I looked at my phone, and for the first time since the promotion, I didn't feel proud. I felt exposed. The morning after I froze the joint account, my phone started vibrating at 6:12 a.m. Not ringing. Vibrating. Message after message after message. I didn't open them immediately. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the low mechanical hum of my heater and the faint seagulls outside. Constanta mornings are quiet in a way that feels almost staged, like the world is pretending nothing ugly exists. My phone buzzed again, and again. Finally, I rolled over and unlocked it. Mom. Why can't I access the account? Mom. I need to transfer money. Mom. Call me immediately. Mom. What did you do? There was no good morning, no are you okay, just possession panic. I sat up slowly, heart steady. I had known this was coming. I had rehearsed this. I didn't respond. Instead, I got up, made coffee, and opened my laptop. I logged into the new account I'd opened 2 weeks earlier, the one she didn't know existed, the one I had transferred most of my savings into the night before. Clean, secure, mine. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. At 6:37 a.m., she called. I let it ring. At 6:41, she called again. At 6:43, my aunt called. Interesting. At 6:45, my cousin texted, Your mom is crying. What did you do? There it was, the family chorus. I took a slow sip of coffee and finally called her back. She answered before the first ring finished. What did you do to the account? No greeting, no hesitation, straight to accusation. I separated my finances. Silence. Then the shift. You what? I separated my finances. You had no right. The audacity of that sentence almost made me laugh. I had every right. That money is mine too. No, I said calmly, it isn't. I raised you, and I'm grateful for that, but raising a child doesn't create a lifelong payment plan. Her breathing changed. I could hear it. The tight inhale, the anger building. You think you're better than me now because you got promoted? This has nothing to do with that. Don't lie to me. There it was again. The narrative she needed. This wasn't about boundaries. It was about betrayal. You humiliated me, she continued. I went to transfer money for the house repairs and it was gone. It wasn't gone, it was moved. Without my permission. It was my money. You live in this house. I pay rent. You pay a contribution. I almost smiled at the word choice. You told me it was rent. Well, it's not enough. There it was. The moving target. You want more? I asked evenly. I want what I deserve. And what exactly is that? My son's loyalty. Loyalty. Such a dangerous word when it's weaponized. I am loyal, I said, but I'm not financially submissive. Her voice hardened. You owe me. No. Yes, you do. No, I don't. You think you can just walk away from everything I've done for you? I'm not walking away. I'm setting a boundary. You're selfish. There it was. The old spell. Selfish. I used to fold every time she said that word. As a kid, selfish meant I didn't love her. As a teenager, selfish meant I wasn't grateful. As an adult, selfish meant I wasn't compliant. Now, selfish meant independent. I'm not giving you my savings, I said. Then you can find somewhere else to live. The sentence hung there. Clean, cold, a test. I took a breath. Okay. Silence. Not the silence of dominance, the silence of shock. Okay, she repeated. Yes, I'll move out. You can't afford that. I can. With what money? The money I moved. Another silence. You wouldn't dare. I looked around my room. The shelves I bought, the desk I assembled, the computer I paid for, the small pieces of autonomy she had always tolerated as long as she controlled the core. I would, I said. Her voice dropped lower. If you leave like this, don't expect me to help you when you fail. I'm not failing. You will. That wasn't fear in her voice. It was hope. Hope that I would struggle, that I would come back, that I would apologize, that I would reattach the leash. I won't, I said quietly. She laughed once. You think money makes you powerful? No, I replied. Control does. And I hung up. My hands were steady, but my chest was tight, because I knew this wasn't the end. It was escalation. The next move came that evening. I got home from work and the locks had been changed. My key didn't turn. I stood there for a moment staring at the door. There are moments in life where the metaphor becomes literal, locked out by your own mother. My phone buzzed. Mom, if you want to come inside, we need to talk like adults. Translation, submit. I knocked. She opened the door slowly, not wide, just enough. You embarrassed me today, she said. I set a boundary. You blindsided me. I've tried talking about this before. You never said you'd take all the money. It's not all the money, it's mine. You live under my roof. For now. That irritated her. For now? She echoed. Yes. She stepped aside slightly, letting me in. The house felt different, colder, strategic. We sat at the kitchen table. She folded her hands. You need to understand something, she began, voice measured now. Family doesn't keep secrets. I'm not keeping secrets. You opened another account. Yes. Without telling me. Yes. Why? Because every time I try to talk about financial independence, you say I owe you. I do. There it is. You think money just appears? You think raising a child is free? No, I think raising a child is a choice. Her face changed, sharp, dangerous. I sacrificed everything for you. I never asked you to. That's not how this works. It actually is. She leaned back in her chair. So what's your plan? She asked. I'm moving out. When? Soon? You don't even have a place. I'm looking. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said calmly, but it will be my mistake. She studied me, trying to find weakness, trying to find guilt. You're going to regret this. I don't think I will. She stood abruptly. If you leave this house over money, don't expect me to welcome you back. I'm not leaving over money, I said. I'm leaving over control. She didn't answer, because that was the part she couldn't argue. That night, I packed 3 boxes. Not dramatically, not angrily, just methodically. Documents first, passport, contract, promotion letter, then electronics, then clothes. I wasn't running, I was repositioning. By the end of the week, I had signed a lease on a small apartment 20 minutes away. Not luxurious, not impressive, but mine. The day I told her I had signed the lease, she didn't yell. She didn't cry. She went quiet, which was worse. So you've already decided, she said. Yes. You didn't consult me. I don't need to. You're really doing this. Yes. She looked around the living room as if memorizing it. You think you're free now? I think I'm responsible for myself. You'll understand one day. Maybe, I said, but not like this. Moving day came on a Saturday. She didn't help. She didn't say goodbye. She watched from the doorway as I carried the last box to my car. You're choosing money over family, she called out. I set the box down gently. No, I said. I'm choosing autonomy over obligation. You're ungrateful. I'm grown. She didn't respond. And I drove away. The first night in the apartment was quiet, too quiet, no passive comments, no monitoring glances, no shared account notifications, just me, and the soft hum of independence. I expected to feel guilt. I didn't. I expected to feel fear. I didn't. I felt something else. Space. But the story didn't end there, because control rarely surrenders without retaliation. 3 days after I moved out, she called again. This time her voice was calm, almost sweet. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe we started off wrong. I'm listening. I don't want this to ruin our relationship. Neither do I. So let's compromise. On what? You give me access to part of your savings, not all, just a portion, for security. For whose security? For the family. I am the family. You're my son. Yes. And sons take care of their mothers. Emotionally, yes. Financially, no. Her tone shifted again. You're being stubborn. I'm being consistent. You really won't help me? If you need help, we can discuss it case by case, but I won't hand over control. That's not trust. That's not control. Silence. Then the blade. After everything I've done. I closed my eyes briefly. The script was familiar, but it didn't land anymore. I appreciate everything you've done, I said, but that doesn't mean I owe you my future. You're cold. I'm clear. She hung up without another word, and for the first time in my life, I didn't call back to fix it. I didn't apologize. I didn't over-explain. I let the silence exist, because silence, when you're not afraid of it, becomes power. And that's when she escalated. A week later, my aunt called again. You know your mother is telling everyone you abandoned her? I almost smiled. Is she? She says you drained the account and left her with nothing. I didn't drain anything. I moved my salary. She's saying you're greedy. She's upset. She says she can't afford the house now. That's not true. How do you know? Because I've seen the numbers. There was a pause. She's hurt. I'm not trying to hurt her. Then why leave? Because I'm allowed to. That conversation circulated. Relatives started sending subtle messages. You only get one mother. Money isn't everything. She sacrificed so much. The narrative was being crafted. Ungrateful son, blinded by promotion, abandoned parent. It would have crushed me a year ago. Now, it just clarified something. This was never about the money. It was about losing leverage. And leverage, once removed, makes people uncomfortable, especially when they built their identity around holding it. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, standing outside my door. I opened it slowly. How did you get this address? I'm your mother. That's not an answer. She stepped inside without waiting. She looked around. Small living room, minimal furniture, order. You downgraded, she said. I simplified. For this? For peace. She turned to face me. You look different. How? Calmer. I am. She studied me like I was a puzzle she no longer understood. I didn't raise you to be like this. You raised me to survive. And? And I did. Her eyes narrowed. You think I'm the enemy? No, I said quietly. I think you're afraid. Her expression flickered, just for a second, then hardened again. I just don't want you to forget where you came from. I won't, I said, but I also won't stay there. And for the first time, she didn't have a counter. She just stood there, realizing something she had never had to face before. I wasn't accessible anymore, not financially, not emotionally on demand, not structurally dependent, and that terrified her. Because when you can't control someone's money, you can't control their choices. And I had just made mine. The first real explosion didn't happen in private. It happened in public. Of course it did. Because control, when it starts slipping, looks for an audience. 3 weeks after I moved out, my cousin invited me to a family dinner. Sunday. Same house as always, same long table, same ritual of overcooked roast and forced small talk. I almost didn't go, but part of me wanted to see what narrative had been built in my absence. When I walked in, conversations didn't stop completely. They thinned, like someone had turned down the volume. My mom was already there, sitting at the head of the table. Her posture was perfect, calm, composed, victim-ready. She looked up when I entered, smiled. Too sweet. Look who decided to join us. I nodded to everyone, kissed my aunt on the cheek, shook hands with my uncle, sat down. No one mentioned the money. At first, dinner started with neutral territory. Work, weather. My promotion came up. My aunt smiled at me. We're proud of you. Before I could answer, my mom added lightly, yes, very proud, even if success changes people. There it was, a breadcrumb. I kept my tone even. I don't think success changes people. I think it reveals them. A few heads tilted. My mom took a sip of wine. So philosophical lately, she said. Independent too. I am. And generous? I looked at her directly. When it's appropriate, she laughed softly. Family is always appropriate. The table got quiet. My cousin shifted in his chair. My uncle cleared his throat. This was the stage. I didn't blink. Family isn't a subscription service. Her smile froze. What does that mean? It means love isn't billed monthly. My aunt whispered, let's not, but my mom leaned forward. You're twisting things. No, I said calmly. I'm clarifying them. She placed her glass down harder than necessary. You left me struggling. I didn't. You drained the account. I moved my salary. You knew I depended on that money. That was the problem. The air thickened. You think I was using you? I think the arrangement wasn't healthy. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. I gave you everything. You gave me a childhood. That's your job as a parent. Gasps. Not loud, but enough. My uncle muttered, that's harsh. No, I said quietly. It's accurate. My mom's voice trembled, perfectly calibrated. So now I'm just a bill collector? No, I said. You're my mother, but that doesn't give you access to my bank account. Silence. The kind that vibrates. She looked around the table, eyes glossy. You see? She said softly to everyone. This is what happens when children forget where they came from. There it was. The martyr pivot. I felt something in my chest. Not guilt. Clarity. I stood up slowly. I didn't forget where I came from, I said. I just decided not to stay financially attached to it. My cousin avoided eye contact. My aunt looked uncomfortable. My mom shook her head dramatically. So you'd rather live alone in that tiny apartment than support your own mother? Yes. The word landed like a brick. No shouting, no emotion, just certainty. You're selfish, she whispered. I'm autonomous. I grabbed my jacket. You're walking out, she called after me. I'm leaving a conversation that isn't productive. Run away again. I turned to the door. I didn't run, I said. I moved. And I left. That night, my phone exploded. Group chat messages, private texts. Could have handled that better. She's still your mom. You embarrassed her. Interesting. Not one person asked what actually happened with the money, just optics. The next morning, I woke up to something worse. A Facebook post? Her Facebook post? She had written a long paragraph about raising a son who forgot the sacrifices made for him, about how money can corrupt even the closest bonds, about parents who give everything only to be abandoned. No names. But everyone knew. The comments were predictable. You deserve better. Kids these days are so ungrateful. Stay strong. My jaw tightened. This wasn't about reconciliation anymore. This was reputation warfare. I didn't comment. I didn't defend myself online. Instead, I called her. She answered immediately. Did you see my post? She asked. Yes. Good. You're making this public. You made it public at dinner. No, you did, she scoffed. I'm just telling my truth. You're telling a curated version. Oh, enlighten me. You had access to my account for years. Yes. You discouraged me from separating finances. Because we're family. You told me I owed you. You do. There it is again. You abandoned me. I moved out. You left me struggling. You own the house. With debt. You refinanced it voluntarily. Silence, then sharper. You're twisting facts. I'm stating them. Her voice dropped. You think you're smarter than me now. I think I'm financially literate. And that makes you better? No, I said evenly. It makes me independent. She inhaled slowly. So what do you want? I want you to stop telling people I drained your money. Didn't you? No. You moved it. My salary. That we shared. That I earned. You lived under my roof. I paid rent. It wasn't enough. There's no number that would have been enough. That hit. She didn't respond for a second. Then, colder. If you keep pushing like this, don't expect me at your wedding one day. There it was. Future leverage. Imaginary scenarios weaponized. If you don't want to come, that's your choice. You'd really cut me out? I'm not cutting you out. I'm refusing control. You're choosing pride. I'm choosing boundaries. She laughed bitterly. Boundaries. That word again. You sound like a therapist. I sound like someone who doesn't want to be financially manipulated. Silence. Then the final attempt. If I fall behind on payments, it will be your fault. No, I said calmly. It won't. You're heartless. I'm responsible for myself. And what am I supposed to do? Manage your finances. The call ended abruptly. That should have been the ceiling. It wasn't. A week later, I received a letter. Not from her, from a lawyer. My stomach didn't drop. It went cold. The letter claimed that I had improperly withdrawn shared funds from a joint account and demanded restitution. I read it twice. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was desperate. The joint account had been legally shared, but the funds were traceable. My salary deposits, my transfers, my income, clean. She had escalated from emotional pressure to legal intimidation. So I did what she didn't expect. I hired my own lawyer. A calm woman in her 40s who read the letter once and smiled faintly. "This won't hold," she said. "Are you sure?" "Very. She's my mother." "That's irrelevant legally." That sentence felt like oxygen. Irrelevant legally. For once, the emotional weight didn't matter. Documentation did. We responded formally, provided bank statements, provided salary records, provided proof of rental payments. Within 10 days, her lawyer withdrew the claim. No apology, just silence. But silence this time felt different, not weaponized, defeated. I didn't call her. She didn't call me. The Facebook posts stopped. The group chat quieted. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. Peace. Not dramatic, not euphoric, just stable. Bills paid, money growing, no monitoring, no guilt texts at 6 a.m. One evening, about 2 months after I moved out, she called. I considered letting it ring, but I answered. Her voice was different, not softer, just smaller. "I received the lawyer's letter." "I know. You really went through with it. You sent one first." Silence. "I didn't think you would fight back." "I'm not fighting. I'm protecting myself. I'm your mother. And I'm your son, not your bank." She exhaled slowly. "I don't recognize you." "I do." Another silence. Longer this time. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly. Maybe that was true. Maybe control had been normal to her. Maybe she genuinely believed dependency equaled love, but impact matters more than intent. "I know," I said, "but it still wasn't okay. I was scared." "Of what?" "That you'd leave." I let that sit. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you," I said. "I left because you wouldn't let me grow." She didn't argue. For the first time, she didn't defend. "I don't know how to do this differently," she admitted. And that was the most honest thing she'd said in months. "Then we start small," I said. "No shared accounts, no financial expectations. If you need help, you ask. I decide, no pressure. And if I don't like your decision, then you respect it anyway." Another pause. "I'll try." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't accountability. But it was a crack. And cracks let light in. Still, something inside me had shifted permanently. Even if she improved, even if she learned, I would never again attach my financial security to her approval, because I had learned something bigger than money. When someone believes they own your success, they will always feel robbed when you keep it. And I was done being the family investment account, done being the safety net without consent, done being the good son as long as I stayed accessible. I didn't hate her, but I saw her clearly now, and clarity changes everything. The next few months were quiet, not fake quiet, not the kind where tension hides under the rug like a knife, real quiet. We spoke occasionally, short calls, neutral topics, weather, work, her garden, my apartment, no money, not once. And that absence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. For the first time in my life, conversations with my mother weren't negotiations. They were optional. That shift did something to me. It recalibrated my nervous system. I stopped bracing before her name appeared on my screen, stopped pre-planning defenses, stopped anticipating guilt. Independence isn't loud, it's boring. It's paying your own bills without someone auditing them. It's buying furniture without needing approval. It's knowing your salary increased and not having to calculate who will claim a portion of it. 3 months after I moved out, I got another raise. Not massive, but meaningful. The old version of me would have hidden it. This version didn't announce it either, because I didn't need to. That was the difference. I went out that evening alone. Small restaurant near the water. Ordered something slightly overpriced just because I could. No one knew. No one needed to. Autonomy tastes subtle, not flashy, just clean. A week later, she invited me over for coffee. First time back at the house since the lawyer incident. I almost declined. But avoidance isn't strength. It's fear wearing a polite coat. So I went. The house looked the same. But I didn't. That was the strange part. I walked in and it didn't feel like gravity anymore, just architecture. She handed me a cup. We sat at the same kitchen table where she once told me I owed her my future. Different atmosphere now. "I refinanced again," she said casually. "Okay." I lowered the monthly payment. "That's good," she nodded. "I didn't need help." "I know." That hung there. She looked at me. "I thought I did," she admitted. I didn't jump in to soothe her, just listened. "I panicked when you moved the money," she continued. It felt like you were taking security away from me. I wasn't, I said calmly. I was taking dependency away from you. She absorbed that slowly. I've never lived alone, she said. That surprised me. Not even before Dad? No. It clicked. Her fear wasn't about finances. It was about control being the only stability she knew. When you left, she continued, it felt like abandonment. It wasn't. It felt like it. I understand that, I said. But I can't stay small so you feel safe. She looked down at her coffee. I didn't realize I was doing that. I know. Silence. But not sharp this time. Reflective. You really won't ever share accounts again? She asked quietly. No? Not even partially? No. She nodded slowly. Okay. No argument, no manipulation, just acceptance. It wasn't dramatic, but it was significant, because acceptance for her was rare. Weeks passed again, life stabilized. My savings grew. I invested, smartly, conservatively, quietly. I stopped feeling like my success was something I had to hide or justify. Then something happened that sealed everything. One evening I got a call from my aunt. Your mom mentioned she's proud of you. I paused. She did? Yes. She said you're disciplined, that you've built something on your own. That wasn't her old language. That wasn't martyr vocabulary. That was acknowledgement. I didn't react outwardly, but internally, it mattered. Not because I needed validation, but because it meant she was reframing the story. From he abandoned me to he grew up. A few days later, I visited again. This time she didn't test me, didn't hint, didn't probe. At one point she said almost casually, I'm glad you moved out. I looked at her. You are? Yes. Why? You're calmer. There it was again. Calm. The thing she used to interpret as coldness. Now she recognized it as stability. I was scared of losing you, she admitted. You almost did. She didn't deny it. That lawyer letter, she said, shaking her head. That was a mistake. Yes. I was angry. I know. She hesitated. I'm sorry. It wasn't grand, it wasn't theatrical, but it was direct. And that mattered. I accept that, I said. Forgiveness doesn't mean resetting access, it means releasing the emotional debt. But the boundary stays. That was the irreversible part. Even with improved behavior, even with apologies, even with growth. I would never again entangle my finances with someone who equated sacrifice with ownership. That chapter was closed permanently. Months later, something else shifted. She asked for help. Not demanded. Asked. My car needs repairs, she said one afternoon. I can cover most of it, but I'm short a bit. Could you help? No guilt, no, after everything I've done. Just a question. How much? She told me. It was reasonable. I'll transfer it, I said. Thank you. And that was it. No implied future access, no expectation, no commentary, just two adults navigating a situation. That's what it should have been all along. The biggest change wasn't in her. It was in me. Before, her disappointment would have crushed me. Before, I would have handed over money just to restore emotional equilibrium. Before, her approval was oxygen. Now, it was optional air freshener. Nice, not essential. 1 year after my promotion, I looked at my bank account. It was healthy, stable, mine. More importantly, my life felt internally owned. I visited her occasionally. We talked. We argued lightly about politics or recipes, normal things, and sometimes, in quiet moments, I caught her studying me. Not calculating, just observing, like she was meeting me for the first time. Not as her investment, not as her retirement plan, not as her extension, but as an adult. One evening, as I was leaving, she said something that wrapped the entire journey into a single sentence. You didn't take your savings away from me, she said softly. You took away my illusion. I paused. What illusion? That I still controlled your life. That was the most honest thing she'd ever said. And that's when I realized something. This was never about money. It was about power. Money was just the handle she used to grip it. When I removed the handle, she had to learn to relate to me without leverage. And that's terrifying for someone who built love on control. But here's what I learned. When someone says, "Give me your savings. I raised you," they're not asking for money. They're asking for continued ownership. And ownership is not gratitude. It's captivity. I didn't move my money just to protect numbers on a screen. I moved it to protect my adulthood, my decisions, my future. And that decision changed everything. Not loudly, not violently, just permanently. Because once you learn that love doesn't require financial surrender, you never unlearn it. And once someone realizes they can't reach into your life whenever they feel insecure, they either adapt or they lose access. In my case, she adapted. But the boundary stayed. Locked. Secure. Mine. She said I owed her for raising me. But childhood isn't a debt. The day I locked my account wasn't the day I lost a mother. It was the day I stopped being owned. Do you think children owe their parents financially? Or is that just control dressed up as sacrifice? Would you ever share a bank account with family? Where do you draw the line between helping and being controlled?